Alright, I'm streaming now.
It doesn't say. Press that.
Can you... Why? No, I'm not...
Oh right. Whoa, wait. Look my screen.
I'm not gonna destroy you. What? Oh...
And it shows on your stream on your channel too. You go to your channel, it just shows this. Nothing.
Alright,
Yeah.
gamers.
Oh my god, I have your stream key on my clipboard. Let me replace that. Oh, copy this. And there we go. Oh, your comment is too short. What do you mean? Was that short?
Why do I already have one like?
It's not me.
Well, duh, you know how to be awesome. What is...
Look at my
Nice
screen.
job, Mito.
Dude, it's just. It's just.
Google. Who left?
Your mom.
My mom's
Okay,
watching the
I don't know.
stream.
So
Oh
your
no.
mom. What if I stream? Like no one
My
watches
mom.
your channel anymore.
Who?
It's me. I liked it. And then someone
Thank
else
you.
liked it. I don't know who. Bro, I
Okay,
forgot what
now
section we're
should
on.
I start now? Should we get Sapphire
I'll help
here?
you. Sapphire said in a bit.
I'm just gonna start.
Why are we in this group anyway?
Gorilla, 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 gorilla.
It's just
Gorilla,
green title.
gorilla, 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 gorilla,
It's green
gorilla,
title. Bro.
gorilla, 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 saying gorilla 42,097 times. Gorilla, 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 gorilla,
Stream title
gorilla.
then.
Hmm?
Change the stream title then. It's still blank.
Hmm?
The stream title is still blank. You can change it.
It's the meaning of life, this number.
Okay, go back to here. But look at your stream. It's like stretched out, like the where it says you hit the space bar 42 times. It looks weird. Like go back a bit. Yeah, see, wait,
Gorilla,
it looks
gorilla, gorilla,
weird.
gorilla, gorilla.
And then it's edit.
Why are we editing the stream?
Live stream the STR. It has green light.
Fine.
Okay, I'll ping everyone.
I'm back.
I'm pinging everyone in my Discord that no one's active in.
Awesome. Gorilla, gorilla,
And then
gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Let's take a moment to pause about this number. Ray, I can hear the stream. Let's take gorilla, 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 gorilla. What? They fine, I'll fix it. Floor's here. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I wanted to do something. 1% of 43,097. It's 430 or more, 431. So not even 1% there. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I did it 100 times. Yay. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I'm gonna go do something. I'm back from doing the something. I'm gonna say gorilla 43,097 times. Can you say I'm gonna say gorilla so many gorilla-ing times? Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. This is worse than saying it 1,000 times. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Stop. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Why aren't you guys saying any? I was muted in Discord, oops. Oh wow. Gorilla, 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 flying gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 flying gorilla, 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 gorilla. I don't like this. Why did I do this to myself? Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. What's the 1%? 131. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Remember Gorilla Guy? Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I need water. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Ah, dang! I missed 420. Ah. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Now we're at the 1%. I'm 1% done. Now it's 2% done. 861. Actually, it's 862, but never mind. So you have to do it double. Oh, iMad's here. Hi, iMad. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla. You know what? Why did I do this? Gorilla, 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 gorilla. What do you want me to? Did what? Oh, thank you. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. 500 times. I feel like my jaw's gonna destroy itself. Hmm. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Minus 69. I mean, not minus 500. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Oh, right, you can have 42,059. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I feel like I'm gonna lose my voice from this. Hey, Sapphire's here. What did Mito say? Thank you. Who's that? Is that Saf? Oh, when did Julia get here? Okay. You guys can talk if you want to.
I literally joined earlier and you didn't.
I'm sorry, I didn't know. I just.
I had a stroke.
Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Oh no, gorilla, 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 gorilla. Who's sending me a friend request? Oh, it's Floor. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Yep, it's this one. It's this. Yeah, I got it. Someone take a screenshot. Do it right now. Wow, thanks, Mito, for doing that. I didn't even say gorilla. Wait, I just did. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Look, it's 69-0. It's 69-0. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I hate my life. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. What is that noise? Whatever. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Go for 696. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Mm-mm. No. Gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Minus this number by 111. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. What's the? No, it's 8. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I'm reading the chat because chat's awesome. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I feel like I'm losing my voice after this. Why did the random number generator have to pick 43,097? Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla! Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I'm here. Shut up, Mito. What do you want from me? Yeah, I saw that. I'll do that later. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. We just passed the, back there, we just passed the 2% mark. Now I'm 2% done. Hooray! IMAT says go for 6,969. But before that, we can't forget about 4,200, right? Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Minus 222. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Like, now I just need to figure out where 3% is. 3% of 42,000 is to 1,293. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Wait, did I see Julia in the chat? Well, duh, Julia, that's the whole point of this video. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I'm tired. I should do my homework before this. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Yeah, thank you, Floor, for understanding, because that is the whole point of this live stream. Thanks, Sapphire. Where was I at? Alright. Gorilla, gorilla. Oh. Gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. Yes! Yes! Someone screenshot this. Please, someone screenshot this. What? Mita! Mita, why would you do that? Gorilla, gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Okay, someone screenshot this. Okay, let's go. Gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. Flip this number upside down. And for the moment you stop it, Mita. For the moment you've all been waiting for. Gorilla. Yay, we're at 1,000, which is not at the where I wanted to go. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Wait, I just realized I can get 10,240. You know what that is? I bet Julia would know what that is. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Someone put a 0 in front of this number. Photoshop a 0 in front of this number. In front of the 2. Someone put a 0 in front of the 2. So gorilla. 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 Oh no. It's been 30 minutes and I only got to 1050. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, gorilla, oh yeah, gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Ah, 1,100. Woo. Let's go. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, ah yeah, gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I'm gonna lose my voice after this 100%. I mean, 43,000 times. It's crazy. Gorilla, 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 ah yeah, gorilla, 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 gorilla. Now we're at the point where I left off last time. Remember the 1,200 one? It would have been 1,000, but Sapphire had an idea. Mita, what do you want? Fine, I'll do it right now. Let me do it, I know what to do. There, are you happy now? I gotta give some people moderator for being so awesome. Sapphire can be a moderator. Julia can be a moderator. That's it. Ha ha ha. Now we're taking the first step of last time. Remember the 1,201? It was on August 2nd, 2020. The gross year. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. 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 Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. What was it again? Ah. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. How long have I been streaming for? 35 minutes. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I'm... We're at the three... Wait. What's this? Wait, did you? Wow. Thanks, Mito. I guess. We're at the three... We're at the Gorilla. We're at the 3% mark. I'm 3% done. Hooray! Now I'm guessing that the next percentage would be 1694. And... What? It's 1724. What? Wait, did floor? Yes! Thank you, Floor. Now I'm gonna go tell Julia. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla. Gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. I'm getting tired of this gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. 13:45. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Oh yay, Jakob's here. I didn't expect him to be here. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, gorilla. Gorilla, gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. We're at 1400. Hooray! It's been 42 minutes. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Oh, 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 gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Coughing sound effect. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. This is getting very bad. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. 1,500 is the one that Sapphire wanted me to get to. Remember? You said, now 1,500. But I'm not gonna do that because I just. Wait. Never mind. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Mm. Mm. Time to drink more H2O. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Mm-hmm. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I'm getting tired at around 3:50 p.m. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. 1,600 times. Awesome. Dang, I forgot about 1507. I'm so stupid. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. To make up for that, minus this number 607 by 100. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, gorilla. Gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I feel like when this is done, I can sleep forever. When I lose my voice, the doctor's gonna be like, how did you do it? I'm gonna be like, I said gorilla 42,097 times. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Why am I so tired? And hungry. I'm tired. Hungry. Oh, while I'm streaming, I might tell you to support DV20 Studios in the making of Mercury PDF. It's a great server with Bed Wars, I think, and other stuff. So yeah, it's super duper awesome. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. How long have I been streaming for? 51 minutes and I'm at 1744? Ah. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Oh hey, it's the year the United States was founded. Aw yeah. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I wonder how long I'm gonna be here for. So I calculated, and it said I'm gonna be here for at least 5 hours, maybe. Because it only takes me 0.39 seconds for me to say gorilla. So I multiplied it by 43,097 and I got 4 point bajillion. I know, I actually got 16,807. Why should I be teaching you guys math? Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla power. Gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. 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 I feel like I'm gonna fall asleep streaming or something. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Wait, I need to search something. So, I might not be able to say the whole thing in one sitting, so half of 43,097 is 21,549. So, do you guys think I should stop at that and continue tomorrow, or do I say everything at once?
Say everything. We want to see you get tortured.
Where did you come from? Whatever. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Yeah. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. We're at 1,900. Hooray! Now, in about 100 more gorillas, I won't be in the ones anymore. I'll be in the 2,000s. Hooray! Now I have to continue saying gorilla, so I can reach the goal of saying gorilla 42,097 times. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Hey guys, you can, Chris and Nito, you guys can say gorilla too, if you want to. Help me out.
Gorilla.
Thank you. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Almost 2,000. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Oh my god. It's also where the internet started, I think. Yeah, it is. Okay. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Now, have you moment? Now it's the moment of truth. I'm gonna say it for the 2,000th time. Gorilla. Yay! Gorilla. This was a really bad year. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. This was a really good year, gorilla. This was a really bad year, gorilla. Hopefully this will be a good year. Gorilla, 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 gorilla,
Rapping 2021.
gorilla. What was that? Why
I
is...
said Shane rapping 2021.
Oh my god! Tyler's watching my stream?
You didn't know that? He's been watching for like the whole time.
Really?
Yes, he
He hasn't done
did.
anything in chat though, in the stream.
Well, he's been DMing me, so yeah, he's been on the stream.
He DM'd me gorilla. Wait, I gotta.
Gorilla.
He DM'd me, and I quote, gorilla, 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 gorilla.
Shane, you taught Ty to say gorilla every day just like you. Good job.
He's a mini me.
Now Mito's gonna be even more annoyed by him because he just said gorilla.
Why
Good
would you
job,
say it on
Shane.
stream? He will know that. He will know that now. Why
What?
would you do that?
Oops. Yeah, I'm gonna go back on mute.
Don't be embarrassed. No one deserves to be embarrassed. Or something.
Shane animation's animation.
Now everyone knows about that. Why would you do that? Ugh.
You said nobody deserves to be embarrassed, so I decided to make you embarrassed.
What can I say to annoying Megabucks? Um,
Don't say the one phrase I'm pretty sure you're about to say.
I forgot. Now
I think you
Ty
just
saying that
forgot
I
it.
hate him.
Nice.
That's not nice.
Good job, Shane.
I didn't mean to. Chris, what makes you mad? Can you tell me?
Everything.
Okay, everything.
Yeah, it didn't work this time. You just got scammed.
Tyler's saying that he hates me for a lot of reasons, for everything you've done to me. What did I do to you?
What did you do to Ty, man?
I didn't do anything to him.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
But are you sure?
If you keep saying that, you're gonna get me canceled on Twitter or something.
Can we do that, please?
No!
I would love to see Shane gets canceled trending on Twitter.
Shane gets canceled. Hey everybody, Shane got canceled. Oh my god, I never thought I'd see the day where the gorilla man gets gorilla canceled. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Ah, gorilla. I don't want to
What is
do
a
this
gorilla?
anymore.
Gorilla move.
Why did the random number generator have to give me...
I hope the random number generator just fixes 50,000 next time.
What? No.
Shane, why did you do this to yourself?
Okay, so here's what happened. Sapphire was angry at me for something. And then I said, what if I said gorilla 10,000 times? And then he said, no, say it 50,000 times. Then I looked up the average between 10,000, 50,000, and I got 30,000. Then I asked him, can I say 30,000 times? He said maybe. And then that's where I pulled out the random number generator. And I put 10,000 as the minimum and 50,000 as maximum. And I got 42,097. You don't think I'm gonna fall asleep, do you? Chris?
I hope you do.
Why? So you can write something on my forehead or something, but you don't even know where I live, but you do. Never mind.
I mean, I could go over there and just do that right now.
I dare you. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. 2100. Oh my god, it's Trip Shelton Herberman in like 2,000 years. Oh my god, it's been so long since I've talked to him. Anyways, I have to continue doing the thing that I'm doing right now. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I'm going to die, gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 is it gorilla? I wonder if I'll get 300 subscribers from this. I don't upload here anyway. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Hey Chris, are you still here? No? Okay. gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Oh my god! Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. 2,300. I wait. When is? Oh, I passed 4%. Wait, no, I didn't. Oh, I did pass 4%. What's 5% of it? Oh, I passed. I'm over 5% done. Hooray! Now what? 6%. Oh, 6% of 40,000. Okay. Oh, it's 2585. 86. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Oh my god. Tyler said, get Wi-Fi anywhere you go. Where did Megabox go? He left the call? Why? I'll get revenge on him later. What if I let my alt join the call, and since my alt is me, so it will say gorilla twice, so I will tap the spacebar twice. Do you think that's allowed? People of my stream? I mean, gorillas is being said twice for you guys, so, I'll just say it for one. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Takes about 30 minutes to say 1,200 times. And I've done it 2,334 times. And yeah, 73 minutes ago. That's 1 hour and 13 minutes. Oh. No. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 yeah, gorilla, 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 gorilla. Ow, don't fall asleep. Shane the Cool Kid. You can. Also, subscribe to Shane the Cool Kid. It's an awesome channel because it's made by me. Now only 2 people. Oh, now only 4 people are watching my stream. I don't care about that. Maybe is this getting boring for you? Too bad. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Wait, I know what to do. Just like last time. Uh, okay, where's my OB? Oopsie, I kinda gave away the thing because, I just... Here it is. Oop. Yeah. Just like the old one, right? Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I need to take a nap, gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Oh, I missed it. I saw 2420, and especially 240, which means 420, and that's a funny number. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Oops. I shouldn't have done that. That was pretty bad. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Oh. 2,500 times. That's half of weight. Oh, I'm still not there. I just have to say gorilla 86 more times. I mean 85 now because I just said gorilla and that's 84 times I have to say gorilla again. Ah! Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Ooh, I think my food's getting here. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I'm such the gorilla sayer. Even saying gorilla when you're not meaning to say gorilla, it counts as saying gorilla as part of the gorilla saying thing that I'm doing. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. Gorilla. Gorilla, 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 gorilla. I'm now 6% done. Hooray! Now I gotta look at my 7%. Which is 3,016. Okay.